Whew, it is really hot. But, you know, something that I learned while I was down in the desert is that it gets hot super early there. And I'm really thankful for our mornings that are 50 and 60 degrees right now. I'll take it. So I am donning my long sleeve shirt and my pants and my boots, sucking it up because this is the time that I have to devote to this project. Are you excited? You want something? I want to sit down for a second here before I lay out that cardboard, and I'll show you guys that here in a second, but I want to just talk for a minute about the importance of foundation. And I'm going to take you around a couple of different sections of the garden, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. You can take this in a garden setting, or you can take this in a life setting. The principles are the same. Foundations are really important. I'm going to talk to you guys about different garden methods, but what we're doing in this series, it'll be through the whole month of August. I will be having many videos coming out on Back to Eden style garden and how to take it back after it has gotten some kind of creeping grass or vole or something along those lines in it. Now, I'm not talking about like, you know, a weed here or there or even a small patch of weeds. I'm talking about taking it, you know, from something that looks somewhat decent like this to having it look like that, which is basically just a mat of grass, okay? Now, the creeping grasses, there's lots of different kind. I'm not going to put a name to them. I think ours is some kind of creeping fescue. I am going to find the names of all the different grasses that we have growing here. First of all, because it's really helpful, but second of all, it will just help you if you're trying to figure out what to do with specific ones in your gardens. So I have seen a ton of people with the same problem. I know I've got friends who are dealing with the same issue as I am. Everybody has their own methods, but what I am doing is trying to come up with a system that stops this problem from happening so that we can save our Back to Eden gardens, right? So in case you're not familiar with what Back to Eden gardening is, basically it's just a deep mulch method. Now, the primary mulch that's used in a Back to Eden garden is the wood chips, and we're talking, you know, the wood chips like this, so they vary in size. All right, right behind me, this is my wood chip pile, or at least part of it anyway. Wood chips can be a little bit hard to come by depending on where you're from. When I first put in my Back to Eden garden, I had big plans and figured, you know, we're gonna lay down this big thick layer of wood chips and we're gonna have wood chips. It won't be a big deal. And what ended up happening is that I ran out of wood chips very quickly and could not get a hold of any more. And that was pretty frustrating because then that's the first time we started having issues, was when the ground wasn't covered. Now, this method only works if the ground stays covered. Otherwise, you get weed seeds in there. So we got the wood chips and then we lost the wood chips. Used up what we had. I was able to get a few small loads here and there, but for the size that I started with, we needed way more than that. So I started using things like leaves from my friends' trees. I started using grass clippings and hay and goat bedding, and I mean, you name it, whatever I could get my hands on, that's what I would use for a mulch. And it doesn't matter what you choose to use, you just have to know how quickly is this stuff going to break down. Okay, so the wood chips are nice because they last a little longer, but when you're planting the annuals, you're digging in it so much more. I find that it just for me personally, it just doesn't work great. So anyway, you can still get away with it. Totally fine for annuals if that's what you choose to do. We still do use it in an annual style garden. We just use it in the path instead of right on the beds, and then I use a straw mulch to plant in. That works better for us. So here's what we got. This is basically a tree company comes through. They take a green tree like this. They chip the entire thing. Green branches, everything like that. It could be a deciduous tree. It doesn't really matter what it is. As long as it has a good mixture of the browns and the greens in it, then you'll be just fine. Now, a lot of people go to like a post and pole type place. It's a dead tree. And a lot of times it's just like the bark mulch. That's not what we're talking about, okay? We want it to be live and have lots of green material in it. So if I dug down in this, it would probably still be steaming. We had it delivered just a little bit ago. You know, it's there you go. It's nice and chipped well. Okay, so this is a fresh batch. It was done, you know, just a month or so ago, maybe 2. And then this stuff here has been sitting for quite some time. I recommend bribing tree companies. When you drive by them, tell them you'll give them fresh garden produce, baked bread, jams, jellies, you name it. Whatever I'm working on and they show up, that's what I give them. So they keep on coming. So they dump it here. Fortunately for me, they have to pay to dump these chips. And so for here, if they're in my area, they'll dump it for me. And it costs them nothing and it costs me nothing. And it's working pretty good for me. So that's what we're going to be putting on this garden. That's what I've been putting on this garden. The Back to Eden garden that I'll be working on and retaking back is going into its 8th season this year. So it's pretty well established at this point, but that means that the messes are bigger and we're going to have to tackle it in a different way than we would a brand new garden or even just an annual garden. What I have planted in there are perennials and perennial herbs, and it's just going to be a bit of a challenge. So Back to Eden is you take a plot of land, it could be, you know, yard, something like that, you know, any kind of ground that you have. You dig out all of the crazy perennials like knapweed or tansy or snowberry in our case. Up here in the north, you might have different things growing in your garden, but anything that's a really woody perennial that's going to pop through your newspaper mulch layer. So you lay that down first, you get it nice and wet. Then on top of that, you're going to put down your compost. I highly recommend well-rotted manure. And then on top of that, you put in your wood chips. Now, a lot of people will build these gardens up in the fall time. I personally think that's the best time to get it going, but you can do it any time of year if you want to. And then when it comes time for planting, the goal is that the wood chip or the newspaper layer has broken down. You pull back the wood chips in an annual setting, pull back the wood chips, plant in the compost layer, and put your wood chips back over. The foundation that we've got, what issues we've got going on in this garden. And I'm going to start here in this lavender garden. I'm going to show you how to do this, and then I'm going to take you through every single section. I probably have a 1/4 acre garden that I have to fix, and it's a big job. It's a big job. So we're taking it one step at a time, but I want to tell you that it doesn't matter how far gone your garden is. There's a way you can take it back, and I'm going to prove it to you in this series of videos. So I'm hoping that I'm going to have the whole project finished and the entire 1/4 acre by the end of August. I know it's a big thing to take off or to do, but I think we can do it. So cheer me on in the comment section, because dang, it's hot, and really this is the time of year I'd rather not be gardening. This job's got to be done in the fall. It's going to be too busy. Look, I've already been working hard. My braid is falling out. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have going on here. All right, so this garden, I just put down, I weeded it I put down cardboard, which you can see is completely broken down. There's nothing left. This is quite a few years old. Look, here's a remnant over here. And then I just put wood chips over the top. Now, the reason that I did that was because I only planted lavender in here, and it doesn't really need that much food. Most of the lavender died, but I do still have these guys in here. Now, I did the same thing on this side. However, the voles got in here, and you can see that this is what they do. So the voles come in, they pull up whatever plant that they want to eat out from the ground and then build up these mounds. And then what happens in my garden is that this creeping grass, I've got this one, I've got this one. Now, I don't know the names of these yet. If you know, feel free to leave it in the comments for me. I've got a couple of different kinds. This is pretty far gone as far as seed goes. Unfortunately, I just didn't get to this job soon enough. But anyway, then this creeping grass, the roots run into the vole tunnels, and it just runs. I mean, it can go about 30 feet underground, which is a pain. But what ends up happening is that it grows when everything else is under snow. So it takes over when I can't get in the garden. The ground's frozen, and on the sunny days, it still grows. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover this garden, the whole thing, except for the lavender. And I haven't totally decided. I do have a couple of perennials in here. I think I'm gonna just dig them out is what I'm gonna do. So I'll do that later on. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and cover this with the cardboard. Then I'm gonna bring in some of the old goat bedding and give it a good feeding. And then I'm gonna put the wood chips on the top of that. And then, here's the key, is we're going to pull up all this edging, and I'm going to lay some kind of barrier. Now this edging has done a pretty good job in here, but it needs to be redone. So I will probably just pull it out of the way, re-dig it out, and then put all the edging back. And then in the pond area, we're gonna pull all the rocks out, lay down proper edging, probably weed block, and then put all the rocks back. We got to dig the pond out and get a new pond pump because it broke. So I think we'll end the season strong and pretty, and this will give me motivation because I'll see this outside my kitchen window, and it will really motivate me to keep going. This garden, this is my raised bed kitchen garden. This is where we put in a dang good foundation. All right, we put in the hard work for the no dig beds. We gardened in ground for quite some years in this garden, and then I started using the wood chip mulch in the path between the raised bed gardening, and then last year we went ahead and put in these beds. The reason we put in the raised beds was to keep the voles out. So what does this have to do with foundation? It has everything to do with foundation. When you put in a garden, or anything really for that matter, start having kids or building a marriage or building a building, it doesn't matter what you're working on. If you start with a good foundation, that whatever that thing is, whatever that system is, it's going to grow on that foundation, and it's going to work really well. If you start with a crummy foundation, you're not going to get very far before it starts falling apart. So in this garden, I can come through here in about 10 minutes and pull all this extra stuff out of here. I get all the weeds out. I don't have to worry about leaving anything behind, and it pulls out real quick. And I don't really get, like, this hasn't been weeded, I don't know, in maybe a month and a half, and this is all I've got. A couple of weeds here and there, and a lot of this is stuff that I purposefully left in here because I like it. So pretty good, right? In this garden, I'm going to show you a sneak peek right now. I have a full video coming up on this section of me doing this and getting it ready well, I'll save that. stay tuned for this fun little thing I've been working on. So this garden looked pretty terrible when I started, but it had a good foundation. I put down the newspaper and cardboard mulch. This is years ago. We're talking, like 7 years ago maybe. Put all that down. Didn't put any compost in this section only, but I did compost over here. Put that down and then put the wood chips over the top of it, and I left it. Now on the back part here, I did something a little different. I started with that, and then a couple years ago, I came through and I added in tractor buckets full of maple leaves and then put more wood chips over the top of that. And what that did was smother everything out. And really, when you think about it, this whole entire area, so I'll do it this way, from here all the way around, all the way this way, all the way that way, and all the way back around to the kitchen garden over there, took me only 6 hours. And I'm talking weed whacking, doing the fire pit area. My mom did the fire pit area. She did the weed whacking too, and I pulled out all the other stuff. That's not just weeding, that's also hauling in new compost and new wood chips for this area. And it only took 6 hours. And this is a pretty big area. We were able to get it under control pretty quickly because the foundation was really good. And I'll show you what it looked like before we started. So it looked just like this. So I know I can come in here in probably an hour and a half and get this whole thing dug back out and the wood chips put back on it, and it'll be fine. Now, the only reason it's going to take so long is because we've got this stuff coming up, and this is the snowberry, and it's got a really deep root, and I also have this aspen, and it's coming up everywhere. So the only part that's taking a long time is digging out these trees, and the rest of it just pulls out no problem. And that's the wood chips for you. They soften the ground, and it's absolutely incredible the difference that they make on a garden, even in one season. I never thought that the greenhouse would actually be cooler than outside, but it is right now. So anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me. If this interests you at all, please let me know down in the comments. Or if you have questions or you're struggling yourself with the creeping grass or something along those lines, or issues in your back to Eden garden, I have tried really hard to make this method fail and also succeed so that I could help you guys and help different friends of mine build an amazing garden. And the reason that I can have a garden the size that I do is because of Back to Eden gardening. So, a big shout out to Paul Gauchi, who's the original founder of this, because, I'm pretty excited for what this is going to look like. I can't wait to share it with you guys. I don't have a vision in mind yet on exactly what's going to be happening here. I know we've got big changes, but I just don't know. I know we've got to get through this big job first, and then that will show itself. If you're enjoying this content, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button before you go. That really helps our channel to grow. And I'd really like to continue doing YouTube and hanging out with you guys, and that helps me to be able to do just that. I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to learn and grow. We did it. We got stage 1 completed. The compost is down. The wood chips are down. My kids were helping me, so I chose not to video that part, but don't worry, we will have plenty more to show you coming soon.